We love it. And I'll be honest, being a former middle school teacher, your company name is one of my favorites because every time I would say slay to my kids, they would cringe and I would laugh. So yeah, it was awesome. They don't like to hear old guys use their terminology.
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hook.
Hey, buddy.
Daddy.
What's going on, dude?
What are you doing, brother?
Just living.
Livin.
Yeah.
That's what our good man Matthew McConaughey would say.
You know, it's just that time in between fishing trips, man. You know, it came down off the high of our Wyoming adventure, and now, you know, waiting for the next one.
The mundaneness that becomes everyday life until the next fishing adventure. Yeah. That it's funny, for 25 years as a teacher, that was how you defined your school year. You were always looking forward to the next break. It's kind of like, okay, we're looking forward to that next fishing trip now. That seems to be defining the moments. No, it's an incredibly busy, crazy time for me with people going back to school and that stuff. So it is kind of a nutty time with all of that. So I'm like living at Mach 5, I think.
Yeah, you are going a little nutty.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, am just kind of, you know, doing the same thing every day. So,
but that same thing's working. Ed, in your mundaneness, what are you celebrating?
I am celebrating the end of the Olympics. This happened probably a couple weeks ago now from when this will actually air, but they just ended when we started recording this. So I'm celebrating them today. You know, I think it was an awesome Olympics. It was a lot of fun stuff to watch, a lot of good coverage, a lot of good moments, a lot of funny moments from beginning to end. It was a great Olympics, and USA ended up at the top of the medal table. Barely, but they pulled it off.
Yeah, I think they, I don't know. I think they might have set a record or something for most medals or something like that. I don't know. I would agree with you wholeheartedly. I thought it was a fantastically entertaining Olympics. I thought it was really good. Something that, I always enjoy the Olympics. It's great in the summertime when I can, watch Olympics and nap, and it's great stuff. No, but seriously, I thought it was really well done, and it was super engaging. And I thought from an entertainment value, it was one of the best ones that I've seen. Paris really came through, in doing that. So, yeah, that's a good celebration, dude. I like that one.
Yeah. What are you celebrating?
I'm celebrating, actually. I'm getting together with a couple of my old teaching buddies today. They are back at work, and I'm meeting them out for lunch along, kind of like the traditional lines of we would always go out to eat on days when we had to be at work, but they were teacher days and we didn't have kids. We always had a tradition of going out to lunch to this one restaurant. So we're going out. I'm meeting them out, even though I'm not teaching and they are. That's going to be pretty fun for me. But I'm celebrating a little, time with those guys. So yeah, I'm happy about that.
How much are you going to rub their nose into it?
Probably as much as I possibly can. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to lie.
You're going heavy.
I'm going to F with them for sure. Yeah. So,
well, this might be the last lunch you get invited to then. So I hope you enjoy it.
Very well might be. Yeah, it very well might be. How about navigation, Ed?
I am navigating the act of coming up with things to celebrate every week. It is surprisingly challenging. And I was talking, I have a buddy that I started doing some of my longer runs with. And I was talking to him on the run, and I told him that we do this at the beginning of every podcast. And it's surprisingly hard. Maybe it's for women too, but I'm not a woman, so I can't say. But it is hard to come up with things to be like celebrating in your life. Some of that is not wanting to be repetitive on this podcast and tell you like every week, oh man, I ran this many miles as my celebration. But besides that, it's hard to think about different things to celebrate in your life.
Indeed.
And it's a skill that I think we all have to be better at cultivating, because it's important. I mean, whenever I do this exercise of thinking of the things that I am celebrating, it's far better, in my opinion, than doing like some sort of gratitude exercise. Gratitude exercises are awesome, but it's easy also to get repetitive in that, and you don't really dig into the why of being thankful for that thing.
Right.
Whereas celebrating is a totally different exercise and much more intentional and in depth and of to why you would be celebrating that. So I find it very challenging to pat myself on the back in a way. So that's what I'm navigating right now.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think just from a cultural standpoint, we don't do enough of that, right? You kind of touched on that and said that. And so it's not something that we're doing on the regular. Most people don't think about what's going well in their lives. It's easy for us to kind of bitch about what's not going so good. And so I think that there's, listen to the English teacher, not going so good, not going so well.
You're losing it, man. You're losing it.
I'm losing it. I'm like, yeah, seriously. It's the environment. I'm not in it anymore. But we don't do it on the regular. And so, yeah, it is hard. I agree with you 100%. It is tough to come up with things that, and you don't want to bore people and be repetitive. So it's hard, but I think it's a good practice. So I think, yeah, let's keep navigating that. It's a good one.
For sure. What are you navigating?
I'm navigating expectations. The expectations of kind of my changing roles and things. And I think being more even keeled on what I should expect from myself, what others can expect of me, those kinds of things have changed a little bit and shifted a little bit. And so I'm definitely, even from a dad standpoint and supporting my kids through change, as a husband role, as a job and working role, things have shifted in terms of expectations for me. And so I'm definitely navigating those newer things in my life, and the expectations that go along with those.
It's a challenging navigation.
Yes, it is. So, but it's, it's necessary and it's good.
You'll work through it. I won't give you any advice on this one. I won't mansplain my opinion on this one. I'll let you wallow and splash around like a fish out of water. And then if you have any questions, come later.
All right. Good. I will. I'll lean on you when I need you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, a couple pieces of housekeeping before we get into the show today. The mailbag is open. Email there is mailbag@guysfishingweekend.com. Feel free to send over any comments, questions, things you want us to talk about, people you want us to talk to. Maybe you want to be on the show. Reach out. We'll read them all as they come in. So send those over. Show's growing great. We continue to grow and episode counts keep going up. So loving that. Helps grow the show by having you like, comment, share. All of that helps get more eyes on the show. So if you could go and do that, be greatly appreciated.
We appreciate the love.
For sure. Today on the show, we have Chase Coyle, founder of Slayfest Fishing, an outdoor apparel and graphic artist company. We talk about topics including fishing on new water types and trying different angling disciplines, the loss of brotherhood after sports and finding a new community, creativity in the content development world, chasing adventure, and so much more. So let's get into it.
Let's do it, brother.
Hey, Chase, how are you?
Good, guys. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. It's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Chase. I'm the owner and founder of the online apparel media company called Slayfest Fishing Co. I started it sophomore year of my college. It kind of started out with I was taking some photos for some different online brands. I think you guys have actually had a couple of the people that I've taken photos with, but I think one of the biggest ones was Blue Ribbon Nets, a company out in Bozeman. I started taking some product photos out in the river with my buddies and, sending them their way, and they were posting them on social media and taking photos of stickers, nets, socks, whatever I could really kind of get my hands on to kind of build up a portfolio of work and being able to build some relationships within the fishing community. So that's kind of how that started to snowball. And I was just kind of looking at it and getting some of these products, and I was like, hey, I kind of want to start my own business. And I had some experience with graphic design, so I just started making some stickers and post them on Instagram. And then I had someone out in, I think, Georgia, and I hadn't even printed any of these stickers yet, and I had someone reach out and it's like, hey, I really want to buy the brown banquet sticker that I've got. I was all like, yeah, I got it. I'll put it up on a website. And then I was like, okay, well, I need to go buy some stickers and figure out. And it was a way for me to kind of use what I was studying in school. I studied public relations, marketing, business related things. And it was kind of a way to apply what I was learning into a real life kind of experience. And I was having tons of fun with it and building some great relationships and getting to communicate with great guys like yourself. And it's been a fun roller coaster of starting with stickers and then making a YouTube channel, posting videos, selling hats, and then something that's coming soon is I'm going to be uploading some new t-shirts and hoodies here soon. So it's just kind of been a snowball of what I've been doing.
Nice. I love the banquet brown. That's awesome. It's like, after big Coors country out here in Colorado.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah.
that one was awesome. That's not surprising
Yeah,
that somebody
thank you.
reached out to you about that.
Yeah, it was
That was a good one.
originally
That was a
it
goodie.
was originally my trout light was the first sticker, so just kind of a silver bullet. And then I showed it to my dad. I think it was winter break or something like that, and he's like, "Oh, you need to do a banquet." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, why not?" And then it's ended up being the most popular sticker that I've sold, and I've sent them all across the country. So I guess it was kind of a good happy accident to stumble on that.
Right. That works well. Hey, listen, speaking of kind of like how you got into it and that stuff, on your YouTube channel, you started a series of videos called Chasing Water.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and your idea behind that, kind of like your mission with that. Because I read a little bit about it when I was on there, and it was cool. So give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think to really explain the YouTube channel, I kind of have to go back to when I was in high school. I would go out and because so I grew up watching John B. I don't know if you've ever seen John B. He's kind of a bass fisherman, multi-species guy, but I was always inspired by him when I was younger to kind of film trips and whatnot. And a lot of them are unlisted, privated videos, just getting out there having fun, just documenting the trip. But when I got up to Montana and I spent a couple years just kind of having fun fishing, filmed some of it, but I really wanted to, with Slayfest, be able to produce something and put out content that kind of inspired other people to get out there and fish and try different spots out. I'm really big into that. I would call myself a multi-species angler, and I'm not afraid to try whatever else: ice fishing, fly rod, using the spinning rod. So it was just kind of a way for me to go to different places and kind of give myself motivation to check out new water. So that's kind of the chasing water, is I'm chasing new bodies of water, chasing new fish species, new adventures, new experiences, because I just think that's the fun of fishing. And I think that's a big part of the community that I've been a part of, is I've seen people fishing in Delaware, Florida, Alaska, internationally. And I just think it's really cool to be able to see all the different places that you can kind of chase water, chase that adventure, chase the thrill. But the really big part about it was it was a fun opportunity to kind of document my trips with friends, and it's something I have fun looking back on it. I could send it to my family back home, and they were watching, my friends back home were watching it, and hopefully, one day when I have kids, they can watch it, and I'm sure they'll probably say dad was pretty lame, but it'll be cool. Like, I think it's just fun to have it documented and be able to share my experiences with others, because I grew up watching tons of YouTubers, and I always wanted to go to all these different spots they were fishing. And I just thought it was so cool that someone like John B was sharing their experiences with me, a little 13-year-old in my bedroom. So it was just kind of a way to kind of share those adventures with others.
Right. It's amazing and it's fantastic because, when you speak of like the generational differences, having us, we've been doing that same trip, our guys fishing weekend trip for
Hmm.
28 years. And when we try to go back and remember where we were from year to year, it
Yeah.
gets pretty hilarious us trying to figure that stuff out because we haven't documented it, and
Yeah.
it's great. And now the amount of content that you get, and like you say, it's so phenomenal to be able to instant message people and get some feedback
Oh,
and be
yeah.
like, hey, where did you go, where were you fishing? And that's kind of what we're trying to build here too, is that
Yeah.
idea of that sharing of information, of being able to experience those kinds of trips and places we've been, and share those things, because you're right. It doesn't, that kind of new generation. And it's hilarious that like, you're like the future generations probably will look back and be like, oh, that's lame. I used to have to watch
Yeah.
Bill Dance, with his big Tennessee hat on, like fishing for bass every week. So yeah, so it's just interesting how that's unfolded. That's
Yeah.
terrific. I love your mission. It's about, adventure is a big part about what we're doing
Hmm.
here too.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
tapping into some of that adventurous side, and not just going to the places that but experiencing something new. And so that's really cool. I think that's one of the best parts about what you're doing. Love it.
Thank you.
Today, you're a very adventurous fisherman, but how did it all start? How'd you get into fishing, and why have you stuck with it?
Well, that's a good question. I would say I started fishing at a young age. I got it from my dad. My dad was a big steelhead salmon angler, and we used to do this camping trip every summer. And him and his buddies would go out, and they'd go out on the Rogue River, and they just kind of troll the boat around, kind of where the Rogue River meets the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and it's kind of, I mean, the scene of this fishing is crazy. And you've got 300, 400 boats, I mean, this time of year that we're at right now, that are just kind of going around in a circle in the river. It's like NASCAR out there, just circles, trolling, circles, just pulling out giant Chinook salmon. I mean, it's crazy. So just kind of growing up around that, with Chinook salmon fishing, steelhead fishing. And I grew up in a town that's split by the river, so the way of like the way of life around the river is, it's just been kind of ingrained in me. So fishing has always been a part of my life, and it's been something that I've done camping with my dad, with my friends. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of how I got into it, and then sticking with it. It's always been so fun. It's been a way to almost escape daily normal life of, I've been a student athlete most of my life and just graduated, so I'm on to real world and working and whatnot. But it's just always been a way to get outside and enjoy nature and just have fun with friends, my dad, go camping, whatever it may be. Like, it's just a way to appreciate the outdoors and have some fun.
Definitely. I think the act of doing that with your pops and getting into the sport with your dad and having that mentorship of someone showing you that and just getting you hooked into something as awesome as Chinook salmon, and that I can imagine that it's quite the addictive drug.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't even really catch my first salmon until high school, but you're just around it. And I mean, there was one time, I probably little kid, where my dad comes back to the campground with a 50-pound salmon. There's old photo of them holding it up, and you're just kind of looking at this as a little kid, like, wow, holy, this thing's crazy that someone could pull that out of the river. So just having, maybe not catching some of those fish as a young age, but just kind of seeing, the thrill of it almost, and seeing my dad bring home big fish and have these photos that I can look back on with these giant fish. It's a really cool thing. And I think it kind of gets it into your mind early, like the addiction. And, I don't think the fishing addiction starts until you actually start putting some line in the water, but I think the seed can get planted by other people for sure.
For sure. And are you still fishing a lot with your dad today? Do you guys still go out, hit the river and all that?
Sometimes. My dad doesn't fish as much anymore. He's pretty busy, but we did on the Rogue. There's a spot called the Holy Water. It's a fly fishing only section. I'm trying to get him into fly fishing. I'm trying to get
Okay.
him hooked on it like myself. But yeah, it was during the salmon fly hatch early this summer, and we actually kind of missed it. But it was fun to go out there and just kind of helping him, teaching him a little bit about fly fishing, and yeah, hopefully he'll get into it a little bit more. He's trying to get me into hunting, so I'm going to start doing that this fall. So hopefully I start hunting with him and he'll start fly fishing with me.
It's a fair
Nice.
trade.
Yeah.
That's good. So school in Montana, and then you said you started fly fishing from there, kind of got into it. Montana is big. Montana is like the fly fishing mecca for
Oh yeah.
like the
It's
world,
insane.
right? It's like
It's
one of the
insane.
fly. Yeah. How, like, talk a little bit about being a beginner in that atmosphere and the intimidation factor and all that kind of stuff, and your ability to kind of stick with it through that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. When I got to Montana, I had some old like 90s tube fly rod. Like it's not even really a fly rod. I mean, you could probably throw a spinning rod on that thing and use it like that. It was my dad's old one. So that's kind of, I was trying to get the motion down with that and try to figure it out. But obviously you don't really know what you're doing. You're not catching a lot of fish. So I was doing a lot of spinning rod fishing my freshman, sophomore year. And then I would say being able to just kind of stick it out and have, I was playing football in Montana. So I was around kind of a group of built in friends, really. It's a brotherhood. So all those dudes from Montana, they've been fly fishing their entire life. So they were all extremely helpful. They all gave me tons of tips and tricks, and they'd take me out and they'd kind of use these flies, toss your fly right there. Here's how to mend. Here, pull out your line, cast it like this. So I had a lot of dudes helping me out. So I got a little lucky with that. I didn't have to kind of go in it blind because I'd never fly fished before moving to Montana. But I think sticking with it, I just kind of had to tell myself, like, hey, I'm just gonna. Me and my roommate Jack, who's been in a lot of my videos, we kind of just said, hey, let's just put the spinning rod down. Let's pick up the fly rods. Let's just grind it out until we can figure out, the different fly patterns, how to cast better, how to read the water a little bit better, like just all these, all the different things that come into fly fishing when it's using split shot to get a nymph down lower, learning how to, roll cast in tight areas. Like we're just like, let's just put the spinning rod down. Let's just practice fly fishing only. And then we'll go through a learning curve. There's going to be a roadblock, but we'll enjoy it a lot more in the end once we kind of go through those growing pains. And we went through that for a while of catching maybe a fish, getting skunked, something like that. So it was having to go through those growing pains was huge. And I think it paid off in the end because now we barely pick up the spinning rods. I catch trout only on a fly rod. I try to catch bass on the fly rod. I try to catch everything I can on the fly rod. And we started tying together. So it just kind of, once we got through that roadblock, it just kind of snowballed into the fly fishing addiction that you hear, that you just don't want to put it down and you're thinking about it all the time. You're thinking about hitting new rivers and
Right.
yeah, yeah. And then chasing water was kind of, that kind of played into it because we're like, we want to fly fish, let's film it, let's document it, and then just hitting different bodies of water, trying to get different places to fish. I think that helped out a lot because we saw, I mean, Montana is full of rivers and streams, lakes. I mean, any body of water you could think of, there's going to be trout or some type of fish species out there. So, I mean, it wasn't like we were fishing bodies of water with no fish. So I think that was a little helpful too. But just learning that and just getting into that was tons of fun. And, seeing different bodies of water, catching different types of trout, different, like catching grayling, catching all sorts of different bass, whatever it was, I think was very helpful to, kind of round out those fly fishing skills. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert, or I'm kind of still an amateur. I still am an amateur. I don't really know much about fly fishing, but I'm getting better every day. I'm getting better every week. So I think that chasing water has done a huge part of that, just seeing different bodies of water and just getting that experience, getting out on the water and trying it out.
That's awesome. You said something back at the beginning talking about your time in Montana with your brotherhood of your football team, and now you've moved on to the next chapter in life of having a big boy job. Talk a little bit about just that transition of always having a community around you, almost 24/7, or when you're in season and then off season training and stuff like that. What's it been like, in a sense, losing that and entering in the world of finding a new community?
Yeah, it's been a change. You go 100 guys, you see these dudes every day. You're eating with them, you're going fishing with them, you're watching movies, you're going on double dates with your girlfriends with these guys. It's just you do everything with them. And then we're all living in different places. Like my buddy Jack, he's from Idaho. I had friends from Montana, Washington that we'd go fishing, and then I moved back home to Oregon, and it's a little different. You don't have these guys around, and you don't have these trips planned out, oh, let's go after class, let's go after lifting and go fishing. So it's definitely a lot different. And we're texting each other our catches and whatnot, but it's harder to not be in person. But I feel like I'm fortunate enough that I moved back to my original hometown where I'm from. So I've got buddies that I could come back to and fish with. And, it's definitely not that football brotherhood that you're living with these guys, you're around them 24/7, but I'm fishing with my close friends now, and hopefully can get my dad to go out a little bit more. But I think having my Slayfest fishing page has been really helpful with the fishing community, because I can still have relationships in the fishing community. I can have conversations about fly fishing, or, video editing when it comes to fishing, or different fly patterns, different trips, rivers. Like that's been very helpful for the transition. And then just one thing that I've been doing a lot is I've been going into my local fly shop, Rogue Fly Shop. Josh, the owner there, I go in there quite a bit, and I'll buy fly tying material, but it's more of just the chat fishing, see, hey man, where should I hit up right now? And he'll kind of point me in the right direction. So I think that's a big thing that I'm really trying to dive into, since I don't have that brotherhood with the football team and being out in Montana anymore. So being able to build some relationships within it, whether it be from fly shops. And I've been reaching out to some people in the Oregon area about Trout Unlimited for Southern Oregon, just trying to find some people who have interest in trying to be a part of a community in my area that I can meet up and maybe fish with people, or maybe help out in whatever way it may be. I think that's kind of where the direction I'm heading in towards in this transition period.
That's great, and good stuff, because I think that it's around, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of guys don't necessarily know how to go find it. You know what I mean? Like I think that
Yeah.
that's kind of a big deal. So it's great that you have that kind of avenue. One thing, about starting a business in Slayfest for sure, and what I'm, from what you've talked about in your schooling and things like that, it takes a real creative mind to do some of the stuff that you're doing, with the videos and the ideas behind it, and starting your own business, and the stickers and the designs you're making. Has that always been a piece of what, like when you were a little kid, and have you had that creative side a lot? Because I mean, even fly fishing takes a lot of creativity, and
Yeah.
so how did that? Yeah, was that always something that was in you?
Yeah, I would say I was always very creative. I always liked to draw, and when I was a little kid, I won some awards with school and whatnot. But I think I kind of got out of the creative space, and I was more focused on sports than some maybe drawing or whatnot. But I think the video editing and photography and some of the graphic design, I always found ways it was always a hobby. So I found ways I'd come home from school or practice, and I was creating different designs. Like I used to create a lot of designs for my buddies that went on to play college. I'd make their little commitment graphics and they'd post them on Instagram, and editing those videos and making them when I was younger. Like it was just always like, I don't like that question is great because I don't think I understood it until I got into college and I was studying. I was taking classes on how to video edit and these different creative marketing things. And I was like, oh man, I've been doing this my whole life. It was just always been a hobby. It's like, I didn't know you could have a job, like marketing's a career that you could get. Like I was kind of in that field studying it, but I didn't realize like, oh wow, I've always been doing this. Like I've always enjoyed this. So I think I kind of stumbled into the right career path and right kind of, you know, tunnel vision of what I wanted to do in college. But yeah, I think I've always been creative, and I think that's helped out a lot with Slayfest because I've always got different ideas, and some of them may not pan out, or some of them don't end up turning out like I thought they would. But I think it's just Slayfest and creating a business was a great way to exercise my creativity and be able to create things, because I think that's the biggest thing too, is I like to create things and I like sharing it with others. And I love it when people comment on a reel, or they buy a hat and they send me a photo, and or they're watching the YouTube videos and they're sharing it, they're commenting. Like I think that's really cool that I created something that someone could, relate to or someone enjoyed. And I think it's, kind of like an artist wants people to see the painting. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm some artist, but just being able to have people enjoy the things that you create and the content that you produce it's awesome. Like to think that people actually care and people actually come back to see more or come back to buy the new hats or new stickers. Like it's really cool to see people enjoy that, and the community that I'm trying to build and have been building behind the brand, just because people like the creativity of it.
No doubt. I mean, your stuff is great. Your designs are awesome. We've
Thank you.
watched a lot of your videos and we enjoy them. So kudos to you for putting yourself out there. I know it's one of the hardest things to do as an artist. Being a creative myself,
yeah.
it's like you shelter yourself a bit from it because you don't love the criticism or the fear of being criticized. But
Yeah.
you just got to put it out there and keep showing up and doing it and trying it. And so kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's like the biggest part. Like if anyone's interested in wanting to produce content or make YouTube videos or create a business, you don't need to overthink it. Just go do it. Try to bootstrap it. Try to just create content however you can and just post it. I mean, I think that was, like you were saying, the biggest mental thing is the criticism. But I mean, really, everything that I've gotten, I've had 99% positive reactions, positive comments, and you kind of, once you start posting and you start, you know, promoting some of the brand and what you're doing, you find that you're kind of stumbling into a community of like-minded individuals that are interested in the same things and are doing similar things. And, even that 1% of the negative comments, you kind of just laugh it off. Like it's not there's so much more positivity being spread around in the community that 1% negative, it doesn't even really matter at that point.
Right.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching one of the Fly Fish Delaware guys, and he was explaining this riffle that he was fishing in this water that
Yeah.
he was fishing, and he was really getting into detail about it. And in one of the comments, there was like some dude was just like, "All right, already, just fish it," and it was just like, dude, like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was just
Oh yeah.
like, oh God, what's wrong you know what I mean? Like, what's going on in your
Yeah.
life that you have to be so negative? This dude's like sharing like all this great information about how to fish something and
Yeah.
how, you know what I mean? And it was really good stuff. And, you know, there's always
Oh
that
yeah.
one person who's got to
Yeah.
chime in.
Especially on his page, I've noticed some just absolute nonsense. It's like you're really getting mad about someone who's sharing so much knowledge and like I don't know. I'm very grateful
Yeah.
that there's a page like that because he's helped me out so much watching those reels and just watching him over and over and over again and being able to learn so much about fly fishing. I think when we were talking about, kind of the roadblock of fly fishing and trying to learn how to fly fish, he was probably the number one page for me to learn how to fly fish and read water, learning the different fly rod weights and different fly patterns, how to use them, how to streamer fish. Like, very lucky to have someone like that in the community who helps out beginners like myself.
Yeah, it's amazing how, you know, we've talked about it a lot on our show in terms of legacy and like that next generation, and you being, you know, a young kid. It's awesome to see your willingness to put yourself out there to do your thing, to be, you know, kind of like open arms, you know, come in. Yeah, I'm not a professional either, you know what I mean? Like, let's go
Yeah.
learn together, let's share this stuff together. I just think that's incredibly valuable for, you know, our culture, in having that kind of open arms and willingness to do that. So I just think that's awesome that you're grounded in that, and I think that that's incredibly valuable stuff for, you know, everybody to kind of get on board with, because there's so much for us to do together and share, and you know, the
Oh
water,
yeah.
it's endless amounts of water, you know. And
Yeah.
you get some crotchety old guys who will be like, you know, they'll protect everything to themselves. And you know, I'm like, hey, you ever see trout routes? Anybody can get on any piece of
Yeah.
water
No,
ever.
definitely.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, so it's refreshing to see that, like, you know, there's young people who are doing this stuff, and doing it willingly and openly, and it's great. I love it.
Thank you.
Speaking of doing some stuff together, let's live plan a trip together up in Southern Oregon or wherever you want to take us. Say we come up there and do a 4-day, 3-night trip. Where we fishing, where we eating, where we staying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Southerner. So I listened to your guys' podcast with Oregon Fly Tying, and I think he did a great job of talking about Oregon in general. The Bend area, Sisters, Maupin. I mean, you're going to find some great fly fishing up there, but I'm a Southern Oregon boy, so I want to I'm going to try to keep it Southern Oregon related and kind of my area. I mean, moving back from Montana to where I grew up, I'm kind of learning my rivers and my bodies of water right now. Like, I started fly fishing in Montana, so it's like it's a new learning curve for me, it's really fun because I'm getting to chase some new water that I have been to before, but it's just kind of like a new lens on it. So, I mean, I think we're going to start off with we'll say this is a summer trip because I think summer is the best time to be around here, and you're going to find some really fun fishing, some really great weather around here. You're not going to have to worry about any rain or anything like that. So we'll start on the Rogue River, the river that splits my town in half. But we're actually going to go upstream a little bit. It's called the Holy Water. I think it's a 3/4 mile stretch that is fly fishing only, barbless hooks. And when the salmon fly hatch is out there, I mean, it's absolute money. I mean, you're going to catch tons of fish that are just gorging themselves on salmon flies. I mean, you're going to catch fish that are just spitting up salmon flies. They're eating that many or they're eating that many bugs. And I mean, these fish, they're not small. Like, there are some really good size rainbow trout. So it's a ton of fun being able to watch these giant rainbows just destroy salmon flies on the top water, creating crazy splashes. Some of them slurp, but I mean, it's nuts.
Ed, the best part about fishing salmon flies is that you can see them. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, totally.
For us old
It's so
guys, we love
fun.
those.
Yeah, I mean, any dry fly, and especially when you're throwing giant foam bugs like a salmon fly, like you're watching a huge fly just get absolutely demolished, which is tons of fun to watch. But then, so I think we'll have to head up north a little bit, and we're gonna have to hit the Umpqua River system. Huge fly fishing area in Southern Oregon. I think you probably know of Umpqua Feather Merchants. It's there. I think they're in Colorado right now. So they started out in Douglas County, Umpqua rivers. I mean, some of the best fly fishing you're gonna find in our area. So there's a south fork of the Umpqua, and then there's the north fork of the Umpqua, and they're completely different river systems. I mean, it's honestly nuts how different they are. The South Umpqua is very shallow, much warmer body of water, very very bony, creaky river, a lot of rocks. A lot of people will go out there and they'll put in like hard shell kayaks or paddleboard it, depending on the time of year. And we're talking about summer, so it'd probably be some hard shell kayaks. But you're actually diving into some smallmouth bass fishing over there, which it's a ton of fun. You're kind of, Rogue River, you're going rainbow trout, and then you're going to the South Umpqua, a little bit warmer water, and then you're just catching some giant smallmouth bass. I was out there last weekend, and I found some deeper water for the first time. I actually watched a different YouTube video. I wish I knew the name of it, but we go camping. My dad's friend has got some property out there. We go camping, so it's a full weekend of just smallmouth fishing, which it's a ton of fun because they fight like hell. They're a crazy fish. There's tons of fun, especially on the fly rod. They just peel in line. They're jumping out of the water. They're doing flips. It's a ton of fun. But once you can find some of that deeper water, and because it's a warmer river, like not hot, but it's like a lukewarmish system. There's going to be some moss and some seaweed. So that deeper water that has a little bit more current to it, you can find some giant, I mean, just giant smallmouth in there. And you're sight fishing them. You're standing on the ledge and you're just kind of peering down and you can see some. I mean, last weekend I saw some 4+ pounders swimming around and you're just putting some weight on with like a leech streamer or just any kind of bugger pattern. And you're watching it down there and you're just kind of popping it. You're just popping it across their faces and you just kind of let it sink down. You might pull it back up, sink down. You're just watching these smallmouth just engulf your little streamer patterns, which it's a ton of fun sight fishing in general. But then when you sight fish for a big smallmouth and then they're pulling some drag and they're doing flips out of the water, it just makes it a super fun trip overall. But then we'll switch it up. And then the North Umpqua, completely different, like completely opposite. And they're both connected to the main Umpqua system. But the North Umpqua, freezing cold water. I mean, it could be 100 degrees out, and that water's still going to take the breath out of you if you jump in it. And super clear. You're kind of in the forest, very wooded, trees, just very Pacific Northwest feel to it. And it's very rocky bottom, and you get some great trout fishing there, some great steelhead fishing if it's kind of that season, which you could probably get some summer steelhead running through there. And it's just a ton of fun. It's another fly fishing only section. Well, parts of it can be fly fishing only, which would be it's tons of fun. You can throw nymphs, throw, different types of chubby Chernobyls, watching steelhead pop up on a freaking dry fly is crazy. I was talking to a guy who was out there saying he caught like a 5-pound steelhead, watched it slurp up on a chubby, and he's like, it was the craziest thing. And he's like, it wasn't like a giant steelhead compared to some of the ones you can catch, but watching a steelhead rise on anything on top water, he's like, it's nuts. So you can get into some of that. And I mean, overall, they're all the Rogue, the South Umpqua, the North Umpqua, they all have different scenery. And it's beautiful, super scenic. But I would say, even though I'm a Rogue River, I was born around the Rogue, or I grew up around the Rogue River, and rafting it, fishing it, swimming in it. I I would have to say the North Umpqua by looks. It's hard to beat it's hard to beat that river. I mean, it's just beautiful, crystal clear, green. It's pretty awesome. It's a really, really cool system. And then, I don't know if the fishing, so I went there not too long ago, but Crater Lake National Park, there's a little hike that you can go down to the lake, which surprisingly, the lake is not as freezing cold as you might think for being a high up national park mountain lake, but you can actually fly fish out there. And there's some kokanee and rainbow trout. And they're not native, but they kind of put them in there in like the 1800 time. I don't know the exact time, but there's just no natural predators. There's tons of crawdads in there, so some of the rainbow trout in Crater Lake can get enormous. So I went out there. I didn't catch any of the huge ones, but it's just such a cool thing that you're in a national park and you're fly fishing. You're catching fish on a fly rod out in a national park, and Crater Lake is crystal clear as well. It's actually part of the Rogue River. Or the Rogue River, they've found that part of the river comes from Crater Lake. They're not really sure how. I'm not really sure how, at least, but it's kind of connected. But tons of fun. And then you see Crater Lake, and it's one of the darkest, deepest blues you'll see. I mean, it's breathtaking. And then to go down, you hike down a mile, and then you're just kind of doing some stillwater lake fishing, but you're catching fish in one of the most beautiful places in Oregon. I mean, it's hard to beat. It's really hard to beat. And then I wish I knew some ocean fishing. When I was listening to Garrett from Oregon Fly Tying talking about doing some fishing from the jetty from the fly rod, I mean, that was news to me. I didn't even know you could do that with the fly rod. So
Right.
I think we might have to hit him
I know.
up and he might have to show us how it's done. I think that would be a ton of fun. But the Oregon coast, I mean, it's hard to beat as well. I mean, it's not, you have some sandy beaches, but very cliff-like and rocky beaches. It's beautiful. Even if you're not even fishing, you gotta hit it up. If you're in the area, you gotta do it. It's beautiful. And then hopefully get some jetty fishing. I think that would be a ton of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all in on the jetty fishing for sure.
Yeah, I want to do it really bad. I was kind of looking it up, and I looked up his Facebook group that he was posting, and I was looking at some of the photos and all the different fish that you don't see those posted. You don't see YouTube videos about that. And I mean, you never really hear about it, especially, I mean, you hear about some of the surf fishing and whatnot, but doing it with a fly rod, that was just news to me. It was completely different.
Right.
And now it's kind of in the back of my mind, like, all right, I don't know if I have the fly rod size for that, but I kind of want to get one now just so I can go check it out.
Heck yeah.
Anytime
Yeah.
you can make an excuse to buy new fly gear, it's good. Yeah, it's got to be worth it.
Yeah. Well, and just catching new fish on the fly rod sounds like a good time to me too.
Do you have a favorite post-fishing restaurant?
Ooh, that's difficult for me. I think I just got back around here, so I think I'm still figuring out what to go to. My dad, he runs a Red Robin in the town that I'm from, so I'd probably go stop at Red Robin, get some wings and a beer. I think that sounds pretty good to me for post fishing. But
Bottomless fries.
some bottomless fries, yep. But I don't think you can go wrong with just some bar food after a long day fishing. There's the beer after a long day in the sun and catching a ton of fish. It's more refreshing than just having a regular beer.
Absolutely.
That or getting some pizza would be good. Pizza's always great.
That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely have to come up and hit some of those rivers with you. Why don't we go ahead and wrap this up with GFW Hot Seat?
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome to the DFW Hot Seat, where the name of the game is to answer the questions. And the prizes are... Wait, who said we have prizes?
Awesome. What is one thing that you're currently celebrating in life?
I would, graduating college is probably one thing. It was a couple months ago, but starting a new job, I'm starting week 4 tomorrow. So that's always something to celebrate, having a starting a job and graduating school. And then I would also say on Slayfest side, for my business side, I've got some hats or not hats. I have some shirts and some hoodies and a couple zip up hoodies that are going to be dropping on my website soon. So I'm super excited about that, and I think that's a pretty big win for Slayfest to kind of expand what we're offering. And I think they look really good, and I think people are going to really love them.
That's exciting times, dude. Yeah, you're in that next phase of life with a new job and your business. That's awesome. That's good celebrations right there. You are, a graduate with a degree in like just kick assness with content creation and all of that good stuff. So, with that idea in mind, what's one piece of content that you would recommend to listeners?
Yeah, I would say I'm really big into watching YouTube and going on Instagram and consuming content. I'm not a big TV movie guy. Every once in a while, but I've been watching Wildfly recently, and they have some really great films. I just recently finished up I think it's the birthday bone fishing video. And he's out in the Bahamas just doing a DIY bonefish, and I have never done any saltwater fishing, and I've never really consumed much content of that, but I mean, that was just an epic trip. It was just super badass, and doing it DIY. From everything that I've read and I've watched, they're not a easy fish to target and to go out there and target them like that. He just dropped the new bamboo fly rod video floating down the Missouri, which I thought was super cool because that was like one of the last things I did. My buddy Jared out at Blue Ribbon Nets, he wanted to take me out on a float trip on the Missouri through Craig. That's the same float trip that Scotty at Wildfly did. So it was kind of cool to see, like, hey, I've been there and I've been able to fish that section, and it was super cool stuff. And then we've talked about Fly Fish Delaware a little bit. I mean, anytime that he posts a reel, you got to watch it. It's just super educational. You're gonna learn a lot of new tips and tricks. And I've had a few conversations with him. He's a super cool guy. So those are like two pieces of content that I would definitely suggest other fly anglers check out, because you're learning a lot from Fly Fish Delaware. And then Wildfly, I mean, how do you not get inspired to want to film your trips and just kind of document those adventures? It's pretty awesome.
Right. Good stuff, dude. Good stuff.
So, what is one of your favorite fishing memories?
Yeah, I was reading this when you guys sent it to me, and it's such a difficult, question to answer. I'd like to consider myself a multi-species angler, so I feel like I have different favorite memories for different things. Like, I think catching my first salmon on the Rogue. I mean, it's not fly fishing, but I mean, it's hard to beat catching a 25-pound salmon on a drift boat. And you're looking at the ocean to your left, and you're catching a giant fish that's just swimming under the boat. You're fighting it for 40 something minutes. You feel like you just went through an extensive workout. I mean, it's hard to beat that. Up in Montana, I can't split it up to just one, or I can't pin it down to one thing. So I think I'm just gonna have to say a couple good memories.
You're allowed.
Yeah, perfect. I'm sure you guys have seen A River Runs Through It.
Yeah.
Yep.
So A River Runs Through It. They base it on the book. They base it on the Blackfoot River, and they talk about it in the movie too. And living in Helena, me and my roommate Jack, we found a spot an hour away from our, where we were living. So we went out there, and this was kind of the first trip. Like, we're sitting in the truck saying, hey man, we need to put the spinning rod down. We got to fly fish only. We got to figure this out. Well, it's funny because that same trip, I wanted to fish the big Blackfoot River the whole time that I was in Montana and catch a fish, just because of that book, just because of that movie. And I mean, that's a river that you've definitely got to check out. It's just so beautiful, and it's super crystal clear. I mean, they've got some really dark pools that you can't even see to the bottom, and you just know there's some giant fish lurking around in there. But we're just kind of figuring it out, and I always tie on a copper john wherever I go. It's kind of a red copper john, and it's kind of my go-to fly. So we're out there and we're kind of deep back into the river, going upstream, and I'm just kind of casting over this kind of downed log, and I just kind of I set a nice mend, and then I just see my yellow indicator go down. I set the hook, and then I caught this beautiful, just bright brown trout. It was jumping all over the place. Like, we were super excited because and it's also the first chasing water video. So I got it. It was super cool to have it documented, super cool to share that moment with one of my closest friends. And then, trying to figure out the whole fly fishing thing. And that's kind of where you start off with, you're putting down the spinning rod and you know, going at it with fly fishing, and to have that experience of catching a, brown trout. I mean, they fight like crazy, and especially on the Blackfoot River. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better Montana experience for sure. And then I'd like to throw one in ice fishing. I didn't, I didn't necessarily catch a fish, but we were out there just on 14 inches of ice, and my buddy caught a pike, and we cooked it up on an open flame. We heard some wolves in the background, and that was just another one of those Montana experiences that you're just like, wow, I can't believe I'm in the state right now. I can't believe these are some of the experiences that I'm having right now, and I can tell my friends back home, tell my family back home, hopefully tell my kids one day. Like, it was just such a super epic trip.
Nice. Well, that's 3 goodies, dude. Yeah, that's good
Yeah,
stuff right
it,
there.
it was just so hard to pin it down to one thing.
It's all good. It becomes very difficult when you
Oh yeah,
are experiencing a lot of different fishing opportunities. It's hard to
oh
pick
yeah.
one. Give us a piece of advice that you would share with our listeners that you've learned in your youth.
Yeah, being 22, I think I should probably be asking people for advice, but when I kind of look back at some of my experiences, and looking back at my college experience and playing college football and whatnot, I just say, just enjoy it. Just kind of, chill is what I would tell myself. Like, younger me, like, just relax. It's gonna be all right, and just enjoy it. Yeah, I think that would be the biggest one, because I think the question that you had was something that I'd tell myself at 20, and
Yeah.
I found it difficult, but I thought about when I was 20, I was actually ready to quit playing football, playing college, which I'm so glad I didn't. I made the right decision by not quitting and keep playing and stick it out. But then later on in my 20s, or in my year of 20, I actually tore my shoulder in football. But, I just kind of, everything, I just had to chill. Everything was going to be all right. I mean, everything kind of worked its way out. I graduated. I met my girlfriend in college. I was able to start Slayfest and continue that, and I've got a job now. And I don't think any of that would have happened if I quit football. And I think the injury too. Like, no one wants to be injured, but I don't think if I got injured, I don't think things would have played out how they did. So I'm just kind of, those are two things that were pretty crappy that happened in my life recently, but I stuck it out, and it might have been stressful, but when I look back at it, I'm just so happy that they happened, and that I was able to experience those things and be able to, persevere through it. And I would just tell myself in the moment, just relax, it's going to be all right.
Love it.
What is your definition of community?
I would say community to me is, it's like-minded individuals, but I think from both ends, whether it's yourself or someone who's trying to join your community that you're putting on or that you've built, I think it's someone who's trying to actively seek out a certain group or whatnot. So I think when I look back at starting out fly fishing, I wanted to join the fly fishing community. I wanted to learn more, and I was actively seeking that community and actively seeking out people that were like-minded. And I think in return, those people wanted to accept you, and they wanted to share their knowledge, and they were actively seeking new people that were interested in fly fishing, and they wanted to pass it down to the next generation. So I think being able to share knowledge and share interests, passions, I think that's a big part of community, and just actively seeking it out. I don't think, you can stumble in on it, but I think actively searching for the community is the best way to find it. And just, I think you've got to put yourself out there a little bit more. You got to kind of reach out. I mean, you're never going to find some communities if you just don't put yourself out there. I don't think I would have found fly fishing, and I would have never met you guys if I never kind of put myself out there. And I'm sure it can go both ways. If you never put yourself out there and seek that, you won't find it.
Absolutely.
Well, our last question comes in our segment, the conversation between guests. And that question comes from Eric Oram, the co-owner of Two Rivers Fishing Company out in Pinedale, Wyoming. It's a two-part question, so you're going to have to, you get extra credit, I guess. But the part one is, who is the greatest, Jordan or LeBron?
I'm going to have to go Jordan. I know I didn't grow up in that era, and I grew up in the LeBron era, but,
Right.
watching those Michael Jordan documentaries and watching the Jordan highlights and the impact that he's left on sports, not just basketball, I got to go with Jordan.
Eric will be happy.
Yeah, you're a friend in Eric's book.
Heck yeah.
All right, part two. If you could only use one fly for the rest of your life, and you can't use a stemmy because Ed owns them all, what fly would you choose?
I'd use the red copper john. I'm already using it every time I go out, so I got to stick with my guns.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice. You're not going to go wrong with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, you can never go wrong tossing a copper john. So
That's true. That's true. There you go, Ed. You can keep all your stimmies. Nobody wants them.
Perfect. I'll keep them. All right. What is your one question for the next? Well, you can have a part two if you want. But what's your next question for the next guest?
Yeah, I would say my next question would definitely be, I grew up watching multi-species anglers, watching John B. Wildfly, where they're traveling around, they're going to different locations, catching different fish. So I think my question would be, is kind of to simplify it, like bucket lists, fly fishing trip, and why? Like, what is specific reasons? Why that certain fish? Why that certain area?
Great question. That's a goodie. That's going to spark some good stuff for us.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. You'll have to listen to see what they say.
Yeah.
Chase, this has been a really great conversation, and meeting you has been really good. And I am stoked to get out there and do some fishing with you, certainly, and to do some more collaboration. Tell our listeners where we can find you. What's the best way to get in touch with you, and where can we find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is at Slayfest Fishing Co. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I would probably, and TikTok with the same tag, but I would say Instagram is probably the best way to find me. That's where I kind of communicate with most of the people in the industry, and I've been able to collaborate and reach out with most people. So I would say that is the best way to reach me. I respond to every DM pretty fast, or you can leave a comment too, and I'll get back to you. So I would say that's the best place to reach me.
Fantastic, dude. Slayfest is awesome. We love it. And I'll be honest, being a former middle school teacher, your company name is one of my favorites because every time I would say slay to my kids, they would cringe and I would laugh. So it was awesome. They don't like to hear old guys use their terminology. So I love the term slay. I say it all the time.
Oh yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, I'm the old guy that makes people cringe, but I don't care. So it's one of my favorite names for sure that I've come across. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's funny because it wasn't like Slay kind of came out like that popular, Slay came out after I created my name. But it's fun. It's funny. Yeah, it actually originated my dad's friend. Every time you caught a bunch of fish, it was always a Slay Fest. So that's kind of where that name came from.
Yeah.
So I'm still fine with the Slay.
It's great.
He originated the term. We got to give him credit that he originated Slay all around the world. Started there in Southern Oregon.
Oh yeah.
a great conversation and great to have you on, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great getting to meet you guys and getting to chat about fishing.
Definitely. We'll be in touch. We'll get up there and do some fishing one of these days. So
Yeah, that would be awesome.
until then, tight lines.
Yep, tight lines.
Be good, man.
Another guy from Oregon. We have to get up there.
Dude, seriously, we have to get up there.
I mean, the fishing sounds phenomenal. To just the different things that you can get into, the different styles, the different water. It feels like you could be in a ton of different ecosystems in the same day, really.
Right. Absolutely. I think there's a ton of diversity in terms of the fishing that's available up there. And one of the great things I think about that conversation, at least from my perspective, of being the older guy here, is I'm impressed with the younger. We've had a couple of 22-year-olds on our show that are, really invested and passionate about this fishing endeavor and the community of fishing and the preservation of, and it's just in the conservation of it. It's so refreshing to see that in kind of this next generation coming up. And I think it's awesome to see these guys invested in it and just so passionate about what they're doing. It's fun, man. It's a great energy to be around.
For sure. And to also just not, be holden to just one discipline of fishing and being cool with trying it all and going and fishing for trout, fishing for bass, fishing off the jetty as he seemingly is now stoked to go do. And just, getting out there and trying new things and knowing that you're going to suck when you first do it but still going ahead and doing it anyways. And I think, that inspires me to go out there and get on some different water and some different fish. And so great role models and messages coming from the youth.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just, it's awesome to see. So that was a great conversation. Can't wait to hook up with Chase and get to doing some cool fishing, dude. I'm psyched.
Heck yeah. And we're going to have like a whirlwind Oregon trip. We're going to have to stay up there for like a month. Sorry, family.
Right. Absolutely. So good deal, man.
All right, man. Well, another good one in the books.
Absolutely.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too, bro. See you soon.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.